And Kari and Laura, were you able to connect to prep for this?
Do you
We're
want me
ready
to
to go.
do some polls?
Awesome.
I have my bowls set up if you want me to do
Sure.
That's perfectly appropriate.
that. Okay, everybody mute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For some reason, B wasn't hearing it, but we did, I think. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Kari and Laura, take it away.
Okay.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm still reeling from yesterday.
I would say we'll definitely get to that. And part of that, you had recently had a different pretty big honor, which led to yesterday. But we definitely want to hear more about that. But let's talk a little bit about your background with Madonna Ministry first.
Okay.
How did you get involved with the ministry?
I went to a drum circle down in Niantic at the Spiritualist Church and met Red Basket. And I've always been drawn to drumming because I'm part Native American, and I was always looking for a group for drumming. And she asked me if I'd like to join the women's circle at Sally's. And so I started going to Sally's to the women's circle, and I felt so at home there. I felt extremely welcomed there. And it was just like, wow, I found my tribe. These are the people that I want to hang with. And so then when they all started talking about Madonna Ministries, what really perked my interest was that it was a church with no walls and that it was about the divine feminine. Um, I've always been, well, I'm a mother, and I was just getting into the healing arts, and I felt a real connection with that divine feminine energy that really spoke to me. And so I learned more about it, and then I was ordained. I was ordained at Sally's house. And then I was ordained again at my first conference that I went to out in Arizona. And then the rest is history.
That I have to say the divine feminine links together with what we're going to talk about. That group of women or group of girls. A circle is a circle. So we're going to talk more about that. So tell me a little bit about your role with the ministry now.
I do hospice work, and I've performed many weddings. I've performed many funeral services, celebrations of life, graveside services. But my love is the hospice work. And I love doing the hospice work. And that's really where my ministry lies.
That's important. Those transitions in life are so important. So thank you for that. And what would you like people to know who maybe aren't familiar with the community? What would you like them to know about our community here?
I love the fact that we're all from different religious backgrounds, but that we all come together with a common goal, and that is to minister to other people, to help others. I've always felt that was a part of my life. I've always been a gatherer of community. I've always been a teacher. I started out as a phys ed teacher, and then got into recreation, and I taught exercise classes and dance classes, and I've always been a lover of music. I love to go to concerts. Music to me is very spiritual. It resonates with my whole body, and I love to move to music, whether it be slow music, whether it be fast music. I just love that feeling of movement.
You and I have the music in common too. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
always been very important to me, just listening to it and being a musician myself. And there's a great Stevie Wonder song called Sir Duke. If you take the time to look up the lyrics of Sir Duke, it talks about you can feel it all over.
yeah.
In fact, just thinking about it, I've got chills just thinking about
I,
that song.
I feel the music and I listen to the lyrics, and I'm always drawn to music where I can identify with the lyrics too. It
Hmm.
kind of touches my soul.
It that chills response, that feel it in your body, that's part of your nervous system. We're wired to react that way, which is just incredible. So I'm glad to hear we have that in common as well. And now to go to something else we definitely have in common. We have a shared love of sports, especially softball. And you are one of the trailblazers who made it possible for women my age and younger to really get out there and get dirty and have some fun. Because I was the first generation that grew up after Title IX, which made it that we have that right, and that right is protectable. You, however, blazed that trail long before Title IX was on the books, and so appreciative I appreciate you and everyone you worked with so much for that. So I want to hear a little bit about how you started playing softball.
Well, when I was little, I was a tomboy. I loved to play baseball with the boys. I love to get dirty. I love to hang out with the boys, and I wanted to be as good as they were at the sports. I wanted to be like them. If I could have played Little League, I would have, but there was no such thing when I was little. And when I got even to junior high, all there were summer recreation leagues. There was no interscholastic women's sports when I was in junior high and high school. So I always played in the recreation leagues in the summer. So my first love was animals, and I really wanted to be a veterinarian, but my second love was sports. And so at the time, now this is back in the early 60s, there was I grew up in Iowa, and the University of Iowa had a wonderful veterinary program, but it was only for males.
Mm.
And if I wanted to go be a veterinarian, I had to live off campus And I was only 17 when I graduated from high school, so that wasn't a possibility. So my second love was to be a gym teacher because I loved sports. I played softball every summer all through my childhood. And in the winter, I played basketball. So I went to school to become a gym teacher. And we moved out to Connecticut. And shortly after that, I went through a divorce. I was about 28, 29 years old, and I was lost. My family were all out in the Midwest, and I needed something physical to do. And so I saw around town there were all these men's leagues and that the softball leagues, and there were like 5 or 6 different fields that they were all men playing softball. And I thought, I wonder if they'd let me play. And so I went to the recreation department, and I went to the director and I said, how come there's all these men's leagues and there's no women's leagues? Would love to play softball, and I think a lot of my friends would too. Just for something to do, a physical outlet. That's what I needed, a physical outlet. And I loved softball. And so he said, well, there's never been enough interest with women. And I'm like, oh, I bet there is. Could we just give it a shot? And if we can get a league going, I'd be happy to run it. I have a degree in phys ed. I could run the league for you if I can play one night a week. And so he said, well, we'll give it a shot. I'll try it again. So he put an ad in the paper, and 150 plus women showed up. A lot of them were college age. A lot of them were my age, and some even older. And he was shocked. And so we developed an 8-team league, and he decided to call it the Feline League. That was not my idea, but we called it the Feline League. So all the teams were named like Cougars and Panthers. And so we just had t-shirts that we had made ourselves. We played on a little tiny field behind a junior high school. And here's the men with all these beautiful fields and lights and scoreboards. And we're playing on this dinky little field behind the junior high. Now, this is in the early 70s. And it grew every year. And pretty soon, within about 5 years, there was an A League and a B League.
Oh.
And he called the B League the Housewives League.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow.
But I was in the A League. We had uniforms, sponsors. It was great. And then in the mid 80s, my boss said to me, oh, and that actually turned into a part-time job. I commissioned the league. And then I said, well, I could teach exercise classes too, because I was unemployed at the time. I was going through a divorce, and my daughter was like 4 years old. So I was looking for a part-time job. So I started teaching exercise classes. And that actually developed after 3 years into a full-time recreation supervisor job. And I was the first female recreation supervisor for the town that I live in. And so then in the fall, I said, well, hey, how about volleyball? And he goes, all right, well, we'll run a clinic and see. Ended up with 8 teams in the volleyball league. And I officiated and played. And then my boss said, well, why don't you get another little part-time job at night? Why don't you become a softball umpire? So I went to school for that. And it was the American Softball Association. And I was the first certified female umpire in Connecticut. And I did the men's games. And I'll never forget the first game I did. I knew I had to be super good because they weren't going to trust me. And so I would run with the batter so that I was right there at that base to make that call if I needed to, because I wasn't going to have any guesswork. So, but the first game I did, the first batter that got in the batter's box turned to me and he said, well, at least you smell better than all the other umpires. So that was the start. And I played until I was 55 years old. And after that, I coached. And I started out at second base, and then I was a catcher. And I loved playing catcher because I could call all the plays. And that was how I got started. And I don't know, I don't remember when Title 19 came into play, but we started that in 1972.
Wow, that's fantastic. I was also a catcher, and you get to see the whole field. You're involved in
Yep.
every play.
Yeah.
It was definitely my favorite. I first base, third base around, but catcher was
Mhm.
my favorite. I completely agree with that.
Me too.
And I want to point out something that I think is so important, and we see it today in different areas. Just being out there as a woman and the impression it makes on other women, other girls. Oh, I can do that. And not only can I do that, I can do this other thing I've been told I can't do is so important. So that is, and that's true of all of us as well, because I'm not wearing a preacher's frock or, where I live, the old time religious suit and all that, but I can also be a minister. So these things are so intertwined. So that's just the legacy that we all leave by leading the way. That's so important. What do you think, just in, I don't know if there's any way to say something like this quickly. What did being involved for so long add to your life?
Ah, you know, when I think back about it, I really pride myself that I've always been in good shape and that I've always been a good teacher. I run into people, and I'm almost 81 years old now, and no matter where I go in this town, I always run into somebody that'll say, "Oh, I took an exercise class from you. Oh, I took a line dancing class with you. Hey, do you remember when we played softball together all those years ago?" So it's been a wonderful experience, and it's really brought a lot of joy to my life.
Do you mind if I share the picture you sent me yesterday?
Please do. I am I'm still just flying from what happened yesterday. But and I need to pre whatever that by saying in 2006, I was approached to become inducted into the Manchester Sports Hall of Fame for they called me Friend of Sports
Ah,
for starting the women's softball and volleyball and being the first female umpire in the state. And so that led to um, there was a there was a little tiny small field where the girls played softball, and it was by a creek in a big park. Well, the creek overflowed and wiped out that little softball field. So the town got a grant to build two new softball fields, because there were actually two fields right next to each other, just for girls. And so the recreation director called me last February and said, I put together a proposal to the Park and Rec Commission to name one of those new fields after you. After all, you were started the women's softball movement here in town, and we thought it only appropriate. All the fields in town are named after men. It's about time we named one after a woman, and no better choice than you. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, that's so cool. And so it was a big deal. The mayor was there, the board of directors were there, my daughter, my granddaughter, a lot of people came. We had a ribbon cutting with the mayor. It was phenomenal. But that was in April. So all summer, I've been going and watching the games at my field. And the other night, the rec director is a good friend of mine. He came over and he gave me this shirt. And the whole theme of these two new softball fields for girls was build to play. And that was the whole theme. There's a building there, equipment building that says on the whole side of it, built to play. There's a big, gigantic I don't know what you'd call it. It's not a picture, but it's a huge flag type of thing that says build to play. And it has a picture of a little girl playing softball. And so he gave me this shirt that says build to play. So I went to a game yesterday and I wore that shirt. And several people came over to me and said, "You're Laura Dunfield. This is your field." And I was just like beaming. And then after the game was over, the whole team and the coach came walking over to me and said, "We want to thank you for giving us this field, and we want to know if we could take a picture with you." And I had that shirt on, which was perfect. So, oh, I think I'm blushing.
That's just, I love that so much. And
That was the coolest thing ever. And while all the little girls were smiling and saying thank you, it was incredible.
the looks on their faces, I zoomed in and looked at all of them. It's just, oh my
I'm,
gosh, that's so
I'm
wonderful.
tearing up just talking about it.
Exactly, exactly. So that just, I'm so glad you got to have that visceral interaction, that,
Yep.
that, oh, look at what, that connection with, what is it, 3 generations removed we're coming up on.
Yep.
That's incredible. And that legacy will go on much longer than that. So I'm so thankful you had that interaction. And thank you for sending me the picture, because that just, I was overjoyed to see that myself.
It was an amazing night too. That night it was incredible. A lot of my friends came. Women were there that were in their 60s, 70s that said, "Yeah, we remember playing, and we all had these little dinky fields, and now look at this. This is beautiful." It even has dugouts
Oh, wow.
and scoreboards and lights. I mean, it's incredible. And there's
Is
my
that,
name. It's just every time I go by there, I'm just like overwhelmed.
that's fantastic. Sadly, playing in the 70s and 80s, I experienced those awful little girls' fields, which was
Yeah.
so frustrating. It just drove me nuts. So to see that these things are changing, because it's been a minute since I played an organized sport, so things are changing and have changed, and you have been such a part of that. That's so important. Now, what would you have to say to encourage women who've never played a sport, or anybody, but in particular women who've never played a sport before, or who haven't played for a long time and are thinking, I think I'd really like to pick that back up?
Well, I would say to them, you know what? It's physically good for you, it's mentally good for you, and it's fun. Go out and have some fun. And you're getting good exercise too, and mentally, it's just an amazing feeling to just go out there and have some fun, be physical, and enjoy yourself. And it's a community. Again, it's all about community. Because we would all go out after our games. We'd go out and have pizza and beer or whatever. I mean, it was fun. It was a fun evening, the game and after. Just the camaraderie and the companionship was a lot of fun.
I agree. And especially when I mean, you're going to compete, of course, but that putting fun foremost,
Yes.
it, I played on the school teams and things like that, which had more of a competitive edge. But gosh, it's fun just to get out there because you want to. And my favorite example is I am horrifically bad at tennis. Horrible. My husband and I would play until we ran out of balls because we hit them somewhere and we couldn't find them. That's how bad. But it was fun. I played with my cousin years and years ago, and our rules for scoring was, let's see, it didn't work. It worked, but it was ugly. It didn't work, but it was pretty, or it worked and it was pretty. And that was how we scored our tennis games. Because again, we were both terrible, but we were out there in the fresh air having fun, and that is so important.
And I wanna say something about that the night of the ribbon cutting and everything, and I had to give a little speech, and my daughter and my granddaughter were there with me, and this meant so much to me. My daughter was right there with me the whole time. She was there with me when I cut the ribbon. She sat with me, waiting while all the speakers spoke, and and she brought me a bouquet of flowers. So did my granddaughter. I got a bouquet from the town. And then the next day, I texted her and I said, I thank you so much for being there with me. That was really important to me that you were there to be with me when that all took place. And I thank you so much. And she said to me, Mom, I didn't do anything. I was too busy admiring you. And that just really touched my heart. That made it all worthwhile right there.
Mhm. Absolutely. And just the video is on our YouTube channel for the day if
Oh,
anyone wants to look that up. Yes, I reviewed it last night to make sure I had everything in my mind, and it's lovely. You talking and yeah, it's wonderful. It's on the Madonna Ministry YouTube.
cool.
And go ahead.
And the whole thing about community is why I love this ministry so much. And I really, really miss our conferences when we got to meet everybody in person and the hugs and the talks and the exercises that we did. I really miss that. I hope we get to come back to that at some point. The
There
community is
is,
so important.
oh yeah, there's something that does get lost because I've never met any of you.
I
And,
know. I
and
know.
there's several writers groups we used to get together, and it's just through one thing and another, it just isn't happening as much. So I'm so thankful we can connect virtually. Gosh, that's been a positive of all of this weirdness over the last several years. But yeah, that's an important thing. So, and where's the ball field located exactly?
Manchester, Connecticut, on New State Road.
Okay. And they play a full, and this is for, is it an intramural league? Is it high school?
These kids are there's three leagues. There's a 9 to 12, 9 to 11, and a 12 to 14, and then the middle schools and the high schools are using it also.
That's fantastic. I love
Yeah.
it. I just love it. And so that was all during the summer as well as the school year.
Mhm.
Wow.
They don't have the women's league kind of died out, but co-ed softball now is the big thing. They do
Mhm.
have a big co-ed league.
I played a little co-ed through work a few times. Yeah, that's also fun
Mhm.
because they might assume that we don't have the skills that we do, which can be
Right.
a
Yeah,
fun
it's true.
surprise. Have you ever been to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown?
No, I have not.
There is a women's wing now.
Wow.
There
I
sure
have
is.
seen on television on the championship, the softball championships is amazing how far they've come. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, I went on before that night of the field naming, I went online and I found a baseball and a bat earrings and I wore them there that night. I thought that was a riot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See, I
And
went.
now they use a bright green ball. They're not white anymore. They're like a bright, like almost an iridescent green color, the ball. And a lot of the rules have changed too.
Mhm,
So it's
mhm.
kind of fun to go see how it has evolved.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's changed substantially. That
Yeah.
we I went to Cooperstown before that wing opened and then went again and I was just and it was for the movie A League of Their Own, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've
If other
seen it
people
a few
haven't,
times.
oh yeah. If any other people haven't seen it, it's a great expression of just there was a lot going on and the era, but that joy of women dirt in the skirt, they referred to it,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
getting out and having fun. And that wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown is dedicated to those women who had that
Oh,
professional league for
I have to put
far.
that on my bucket list.
And Cooperstown is amazing, and for many reasons. But that just walking in there and this is dedicated to women was such a thrill for me. It was overwhelming. So that was just joyous. And
And again, it's
last,
about women. It's about the feminine energy. I mean, it
exactly,
kind of ties in together.
it's that circle that
Yeah.
we come together and have a bigger purpose, a different purpose. And there is some energy there. If you've been on, whether you've been playing or watching a professional sports event, the energy that gathers around that is profound. It can really just be, we were lucky enough to live in Atlanta during the Olympics, and getting to go to some of those events, it just, again, it's hit your whole body. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And how far women's sports in the Olympics have come
Yeah.
since I was a kid, since you were a kid, is it's just amazing. The women's soccer team, oh my goodness, just
When I was in high school, there were no interscholastic women's sports at all. None. It was all intramural.
so we have come a long way, baby. To
Sure.
retake that phrase away from
Yep.
so important. So, and you touched on it. We both touched on it a little bit just now. Do you have any remaining thoughts about how your experience with sports and your experience with the ministry have worked together in your life?
I think growing up in the sports with the sports and everything, and that becoming my passion, I feel like I'm a very passionate person. And now I'm very passionate about this ministry. And I bring that with me everywhere I go. I talk about it in all the different areas of my life. I do. And if it weren't for this ministry, that would have never happened either. And I wouldn't have been so involved in my hospice work. And it's really it's given me a lot to give, is I guess what I'd like to say. Is the ministry has given me a lot to be able to give to other people.
That makes sense. I mean, being a leader, because you have been a leader in so many different ways, and you you throw yourself into it, body, heart, and soul, which
Yeah,
especially,
not to mention, I was in a, and there's another video too. I should send to somebody to put it on the website. I was asked to participate in a question and answer session at a place called the Workspace in town, and it was all ministers. There were rabbis, there were ministers, and I happened to be down there for another event, and I saw that, and I told the woman in charge, I said, "Well, I'm a minister," and she said, "Oh, great, come and join the discussion." And I did, and Helena Trey, one of our other ministers, she came along for support, and here I am in front of rabbis and ministers, and I got more questions at the end than anybody else. So that was
that's
really
amazing.
cool too.
Well, good for you. That's incredible because again, you set that example of I'm here, and this is where I belong. This
And they
is
were all men. They were all men, by the way.
even better. And you're there being, confident and gracious, and you're saying, "Hey, this is my field too," which
Yep,
is, oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect metaphor to close on. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you so much.
you're
So
welcome.
thank you for the time and thank you for your leadership because I watch younger girls play, and I was kind of on the continuum of it, but I'm always so thrilled to see that it doesn't occur to them that they couldn't play sports. It
Absolutely.
never crosses their minds. One of my favorite memories is one of my younger cousins who's married now, which is just shocking. But I had a chance to go to Bali several years ago and brought her back this gorgeous silk skirt and gave it to her. And that happened to be the night of her softball game. And Miss Emily put that skirt on, rolled it up, and she played softball in that skirt because she loved it so much that she was not gonna not wear it that night. And that is, it's like you said, it's one of those things you see and you're just, wow.
Yeah,
So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your memories. That was, and for all your work with the ministry, and all the wonderful influences you've done, the example you've set. That's so important. So thank you so much, Laura.
I'm very proud of what I've accomplished in my lifetime, especially this part.
Can we
Hey,
cheer out loud?
yes. Yay!
Woo-hoo!
Woohoo!
Thank you.
If
Thank you,
anyone
Kari,
has,
too. Great questions.
my pleasure. I mean, there's so many
And
parallels.
so relatable. Look at Bobby. She's like sitting forward in her chair. She's a pioneer too, a trailblazer, being on the stage and a speaker. Oh my gosh. We need to interview you next, Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got some time if anyone has any questions.
I really enjoyed the way you conduct your interview. You're so enthusiastic. I love that. And Laura, you too. I found out more about you than I ever knew. And I want you both to know I was a catcher for an industrial softball team.
Cool. Very
Yeah.
Was it? I think it was.
We got a bunch of people with great glutes, right? Good glutes.
Good one.
I think it was it Joe Gargiarella who talked about putting on the tools of ignorance when you're a catcher, which I've always loved. Thank you, Charlie.
That's awesome.
Laura, if you don't mind, I have a question. Do you have, since all this has been happening, and I'm sure there are numbers coming in all over the place, do you have a rough estimate of how many girls' lives you've affected?
I couldn't even guess.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
that just makes me so proud.
Well,
So,
yeah, because look at all those lives you've affected. Look at all those lives you've inadvertently affected. And it makes me think we're coming into the age of Aquarius, and divine feminine is skyrocketing. And
yeah,
you have been spending all these years planting seeds.
thank you. I'm
Congratulations.
very
Yeah.
proud.
Laura, I found myself when I was traveling internationally with Bobby, I was like Johnny Appleseed. I would talk to everybody about the ministry.
I do too.
Yeah, and before you know it, a lot of people would come in, and one of my close friends with a great sense of humor said, "You're going to have karmic consequences for all these people you ordained."
Yeah. And I owe a lot of that to Sally and Paula and Red Basket, because they really introduced me to this whole concept of the Madonna Ministries.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
When you're out at that field that's named after you and you have younger women realize it's you that the field is named after, like, what do you say to them and what do they ask you about when they realize that?
It's overwhelming, really. The first time I went to a game and some lady came over to me and she said, "Oh, you're Laura Duffield. I was here the night that they named the field, the ribbon cutting and everything. And could I take your picture?" My God. It is overwhelming. I'm just so proud. So proud. And I'm so glad that I did what I did that day, that I walked into that rec office and said, "I want to play softball." It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Laura,
That and the day that I was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame, that was amazing. And the day that I was ordained into the ministry, that was amazing.
yeah, your achievements are amazing. Thank you for sharing them.
Oh,
Only
I'm so humbled.
only thing that was named after me is some of my friends named their dogs Charlie.
And the fact that my daughter said that to me, that was probably the sweetest thing I've ever heard from my daughter. She's my only child, and to hear her say that I was just admiring you, that meant the world to me.
Laura,
All of what you've done is really just a beautiful reminder that, like, it's not just work accomplishments that really matter in people's lives. It's these enriching activities that we do that connect with other people. Because sports are all about teams and connecting with other people. And so it's just really beautiful that you've helped to foster that and getting that recognition. So nice to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Laura, another question. During this time of your growth in Connecticut, et cetera, were you a single parent?
Yes.
So you accomplished all this being a single parent.
Yep. And you know, and I say that my ex-husband just passed away about a month or so ago. And I was thinking about that. Had I stayed in that marriage, I probably wouldn't have done any of that. So
Right.
he actually gave me a gift
Yeah.
Very good.
of me. He gave me the gift of me, that I was able to find out who I really was. I'm not sure if I would have done that had I stayed in that marriage.
The divine had other plans for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. I'm extremely grateful.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to ask, because I don't know about you, but I know about me, that I look back with regrets, things I wish I had done differently or known when I was younger. And I know that it's all a full circle and it's a journey. But if there was something that you wish you knew when you were a young girl before all these accomplishments, sometimes this, the struggle's part of the journey, but I'm just wondering if there is anything you wished you had known when you were younger, before this
I
amazing.
guess I wish I had known that I had as much courage as I did, because when my ex-husband walked out the door, and I was 29 years old with a 4-year-old, and I was terrified of what my life was going to be like. And if I had known that, if I'd have been able to say to her that night, you're going to do great things, you're going to do great accomplishments, you're going to be okay. I wish I had known that at the time, because I went through a pretty dark time there for a while. And that's why I wanted to go out and play softball, just to keep myself busy, give myself something to do that was fun.
Yeah.
And maybe it was through the terror that you found your courage,
Yeah.
I'd like to say something too. Our ceremonies are really built around helping people find the courage, resist them, and finding the courage to bring out some unlatent desire they have to be fulfilled. And that has been a great asset as our community uses that as a means of assisting others.
And to that question, Sally, I guess I'm really, no, not grateful, but I'm glad that I learned that lesson. I'm glad I went through the terror and the fear, because it got me where I needed to go.
Back on
That's
this
super
false
helpful to
question.
hear.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I wanted to just add in, as you were making way for other young girls to be there, play, etc. I was born into a family with 3 brothers, and so I didn't really have a lot of the feminine archetype around. But my brothers were all very sports focused and wanted to have boys so that they could teach their boys and be coaches and all that kind of stuff. My youngest brother had 4 girls. And what he did with that is he became a basketball coach and a softball coach for girls. And he did a fine job. And he, to this day, he's got grandkids now going through it, but he has the old players come up to him and say, "You were the greatest coach. I so thank you for giving me the courage to be out there and play." So
Oh,
way to go.
very rewarding.
Yes. Yes.
Bobby and I watched last night Inside the Actors Studio, which is a great interviewing program. And we watched the Forrest Whitaker being interviewed, and his humility is so great. But what he said in his journey was it was fear that brought him forth into exploration of new parts of his life, just like you, Laura.
Yeah. Fear is a great motivator.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments? Bobby, you've experienced some of these things too.
Oh yeah, but I think that fear can be a great motivator. Uh, it tells you what you don't want, and it helps you seek out new avenues that you wouldn't have thought out before.
Mhm.
Because we can become very complacent and not grow. So fear really makes us grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a positive.
Fear doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Exactly.
I think it can point the direction. And I would never say, oh gosh, you have to always go to where you're afraid. No, sometimes I'm afraid for good reason, but I think a lot of times it can be a light and go, oh, I'm afraid of this thing, but I really want this thing.
Yeah.
And that makes the next step, oh gosh, there's another thing I want. I bet I can go after this thing too. So that's important lesson. And the people who guide the way, the people who walk into that dark space and hold up the light and say, hey, we can go here. It's very
Yeah.
important.
And letting go of fear opens up the doorway, the portal to love, joy, peaceful experiences. And
There
great.
was a great book written called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And I think that sometimes we do need to let go of unfounded fear. But if it's a founded fear, we don't want to let go of that because we can learn from it. And only the person who is having the feelings can know whether it's a constructive or a destructive feeling.
In an earlier lifeline for me, some of you already know this, but maybe some of you don't. When I found Al-Anon, that really did a lot for me too.
Yeah.
That started me on my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I had lost all faith at that point in time. And Al-Anon really did help me a lot. And
I think it's turned a lot of people's lives around. It's
and
been a wonderful thing.
for 12 years, I was an Alateen sponsor for
Oh, great. Great.
teenagers of alcoholic and drug parents.
Yeah.
And so whatever I learned in Al-Anon, I passed on to quite a few kids too. And I'm still involved with a half a dozen of them today. And
Wow.
I did that in the 90s.
That's great.
That's another community,
So
another,
grateful. Another community.
another circle.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
That helped me save my life, really. Along with the softball.
More, it's like ripples.
Yeah.
You know, ripples that, and you've no idea how many people, but you know that that's been positive energy. What a wonderful addition.
So, Bobby, I hope you do agree to an interview because your journey has been very inspirational.
Absolutely.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Cool.
How about next week?
Sure.
Okay. I'd love to interview you unless somebody else wants to.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you. Yet another. We're getting to know our members so much better doing this. I'm really happy.
Yeah. It's a great way to learn about people's backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah. More in depth than what we've done in the past. So this is good. Legacy builders. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
54th anniversary.
Laura, just something I thought of. I can combine the two videos, this one and your softball one if you wanted into one video for you.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That
I
way
actually
you
have the
don't
more professional one that you sent me, Laura. Tag that in too,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah,
names the
yeah,
fields and
they can
shows the
all go
fields and
there.
hits.
So you have it all in one file.
Yeah, I'll put him
And I
up.
think I sent you,
Okay.
Nikki, didn't I send you that one, that discussion with the rabbis and the other people?
I don't know if I got that. So yeah, resend it because I don't remember getting a video from it. I know we
Kevin, also
Yeah.
putting the videos at the end of this interview would be lovely for people who are watching this so they can
Yeah.
like then watch her interviews.
Yeah.
And this is why, this is what
Mhm.
makes her so special. Like, make it a whole tribute to you.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
I would just sit here. My little mind never stops working.
Well,
Thank you,
what
Kevin.
came to mind for me is like this video, Laura. Like it would be really cool if there was like a little sign at near your name at that field with a QR code that people could like pull up this video that interviews you about this and
Cool.
like has the videos of the other things about the field. Like I don't know, that would just be really cool for future people to see you, even if you're not there to ask those questions of and get like, why this was named after you.
That's a real common thing around here. Everything has a QR code on it.
Yeah, you could literally just like
It's amazing.
generate a QR code for the link for the video and laminate it and
Yeah.
put it underneath there.
And those signs are put up by the city as they're putting the city together. So they are easily done if you
It's a
live.
good way to get traffic to our website.
Yeah.
Our video channel.
Yeah. Or you could make a QR code sticker and put it on next to your name there so people could.
That's a
Put it
great,
on your bumper.
wonderful idea. And Bobby, you've got lots of tapes and videos that maybe some, and Kevin, you might find Bobby's interview on the Oprah show on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, I'll look for it. Should I use any frame to find it?
Any
Like, what should I search?
for Dr. Bobby Summer on Oprah.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, it'll come up.
Okay.
Also on Good Morning America. I don't know if that would be any.
Wow.
Well, I'll type your name and see what comes up.
Sure.
Good.
Awesome.
Wow.
Right. Thanks again, Kari and Laura. That was an awesome interview.
Thank
It
you.
was.
My pleasure. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Awesome. And have a wonderful week, everybody. Oh, next week is Terry, so we'll have to do the interview after. Is that okay, Bobby? In 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay, because Terry comes back fourth Sunday of each month.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everybody.
week.
Have a good week.
Yeah, love you all.
Bye. Love you too. Bye-bye.